Look at this beautiful family. Now, this is actually a tragic story. I haven't heard it, but I've heard the outline. I get a summary before I go on, and I've got a feeling it's going to be it's tragic. Okay, so do you have any other children apart from these two boys?
No, just these two.
And how old are they both?
James is 4.5 and Ethan just turned 2.
And Ethan's completely unvaccinated because of what happened to James. Now, and also, what's your name?
Emily.
Emily. So you've got your husband, still with your husband?
My husband, he's currently deployed.
Military.
He's in the Marine Corps. But yes, so he's been gone most of this year. But yes, it's my husband and I and the 2 boys.
Okay, so this is why this is interesting, because he didn't have any vaccines until he was 13 months.
Right.
Now so were you anti-vaccine?
When I went into it, I would say my mom was very anti-vaccine. None of us were vaccinated growing up.
So you've had no vaccines?
And I had 2 when I was doing, you have to get them for nursing school, and I was doing the CNA nursing school. After each session of the vaccines, I got MMR and tetanus. I passed out after each one, and in the office, and just felt terrible for weeks. But yeah, other than that, I mean, and that was when I was 24. So before that, I never had a vaccine. And
were you sick growing up?
Oh no, we were all super healthy.
What about? Did you struggle at school? Did you find it hard to concentrate and things like that?
No, we were homeschooled, but I mean, my oldest sister went to college when she was 19 years old, and
you wanted to be a nurse.
Yes. Well, my eventual goal is, and it's a slow process with 2 little kids, is to be a nurse midwife. My mom was a midwife, and it's something I've always wanted to do. So that's my eventual goal. But I wanted to be a nurse midwife, so nursing school first.
And then, if you want to be a midwife, but you won't get vaccinated. So nothing's going to make you vaccinate now after what you've been through.
No.
Not even your career. Please say no.
No.
Look me in the eye.
We'll
you are under
mask.
my spell now.
Yeah. So going into with James, I wanted to do all my own research. One of the things my mom taught us, almost more than anything, was to not do something just because somebody tells you to do, to actually think it through and have your own legitimate reasons for doing it. So I knew that I didn't want to do any vaccine, surely at least before he was a year old. Definitely, there's many that I had already kind of, in doing some research, had already, taken off the table. We weren't going to do MMR, no flu shot, no chicken pox, things like that. There's a few that we decided, okay, maybe these might be beneficial. And, at the time I thought I was very well researched about vaccines. And I was, in context of most of my friends and most of the people that I talked to. But, obviously since the day he had his reaction, almost not a day has gone by that I haven't done more research and more, and I know so much more now than I did before. Good job using your
Okay,
phone.
and actually this is tragic, because let's go through it. Let's describe your son before 13 months, completely unvaccinated, no vitamin K?
No.
Okay.
And so he, now he did have, I did have him with a C-section, which is a long story, but he ended up having to be born after.
That's Australian Ziggy in the background.
He did have to be born via C-section after 4 days of labor, and it turned emergent. And all of that fun stuff. But other than that, no, he was normal, developing. He was, thriving. By the time he was 13 months old, he was, even more verbal than most. He was saying at 8 months, he was saying, mama, dada, baby, all the normal things you would expect. Say cheese.
Cheese.
And yeah. Say cheese. And so
Cheese.
and so we decided to get just a couple. And so the day we went in for his vaccination, I should have said.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not concentrating because I am now just thinking say cheese. Can you go back? So he's unvaccinated till 13 months.
Yeah, and he was at 13 months. He was, even more normal than especially a boy is at 13. He was stringing words together more, wah wah, things like that. And he could do several signs. He was a happy, sweet little kid, which he still is very happy, but happy, sweet, easygoing, smart little boy. And
did he give you eye contact and communicate with you before this happened?
So originally, because it wasn't an instantaneous reaction. James, don't push on that, honey. It wasn't an instantaneous reaction. Some things we saw within 24 hours. He started not responding to his name. pretty quickly. I need you to sit with Mama. Say cheese. And he started losing a lot of eye contact. That was pretty fast. But so he was 13 months. So this was May of 2014, and he went downhill pretty quickly for the next few months. So it kind of culminated by November of that month. One of my husband's aunts actually came and visited us in May, right around the time that he had his vaccine. So he was having some reaction, but not extensive.
So what did he have?
They saw us in November, and she was like, or September, I'm sorry, and she was like, this is a different kid, you know. And
right.
He had DTaP, and he
just DTaP.
Yeah, and he started losing his words. At first, I held off on any more vaccines because I, in my heart, kind of knew that was the issue, but also, you know, people tell you, oh, it's just, he might just have water in his ears. It might be an ear infection, and that's why he's not talking right now. And so
he just withdrew.
He withdrew. He stopped responding. We'd call his name. Before he would run to us and make eye contact. He stopped doing eye contact and responding. He didn't want us to touch him, which is very odd because he's a very cuddly, and thankfully that's come back. He's very cuddly now. But so, I mean, within 4 months, I started the evaluation process for him, and he was evaluated by all of the different therapists and the doctors, and so he was diagnosed with a vaccine reaction.
By who?
I'm struggling to remember her last name. I want to say.
But just by a doctor?
His pediatrician at the time.
So his actual white coat pediatrician?
Yes. Now,
diagnosed him with a vaccine injury?
It used to be a practice
Shock
that you
horror.
could go to. Yes, I know. I was very thankful for that.
Are we
That's
for real?
unusual. No.
Okay, that's just YouTube going for a little walk with you.
Okay. You're doing a good job. Yes, but since then, at the time, I chose that pediatrician's office because I knew I wanted to do, at very least, delayed and selective. And they were fine with that, and they were fine with doing even none. Since then, the entire practice has changed and now require you to be in the CDC schedule, unfortunately. So we don't go to them anymore. We go to somebody else. But we, and then through more tests and evaluations, with more specialists, it basically what happened was, because there's neurotoxins in vaccines and everybody reacts differently to that, his reaction was he had a stroke in response. So a lot of the things you would typically see in a stroke victim, you would see in him. He went from being able to hold a fork and hold a pencil to it would just drop right out of his hand. And now at 4.5 years old, it's within the past few months that he's been able to hold a pencil and hold a fork himself.
I mean, that happens to, pretty much all of our children that get injured. Certainly with Billy couldn't hold his pen or do any of that stuff again. So how do we know if our children have had a stroke? We know if our children have a seizure that's visible. How do we know?
A lot of it is, be gentle to brother. A lot of it is looking at both occupational therapists and the neurologists. They can kind of see some telltale signs of, especially with the occupational therapist when they did an evaluation with him. He's been in speech therapy and occupational therapy since he was 19 months old.
What's happened to his chin? Why is it like that?
He's a climber.
Put your head up.
He's a climber.
Look at that, Paige. Has that got stitches in it?
It does. It was our first
It's
experience
kind of
with
big.
on Wednesday. Yes, I know. He was a big
Look at
boy.
that, peeps.
I know.
Was there a lot of blood? I mean,
Yes.
it looks kind of still open to me.
Facial
I think I might
injuries.
pass out in a minute, guys. I can't look at it anymore.
It actually looks so much better.
It looks like it needs a couple more stitches, just saying.
It has the glue in it, so it kind of releases as it heals. But yeah.
Cheese!
And so,
Cheese!
And so some of the other signs were when he would run, one side of his body was weaker than the other side, which it hadn't been before. And when he would run, he would start to, and his left side was weaker, he would drag his left foot a little bit. And I noticed all the other things about him, but obviously I'm not a specialist in occupational therapy. So it wasn't until the
You're a specialist in your
therapist-
child, which is much more important to us.
Yes. And so, but she pointed that out, and so we started noticing it. Say cheese. We started noticing it as well when we'd watch him. Grip strength. He used, when you would put a baby on a bar and they'd be able to hang there for a second because they didn't have that grip strength. Well, he went from being able to do that to you would put him on and his hands would just drop. So with lots of occupational therapy and speech therapy and other work, he's back to being able to do that.
So how old did you say he's 5?
He's 4.5.
4.5. And do we have any speech?
He has pop-out words here and there. He started, we've been trying to do some gut healing and some detoxing and things like that. And with those things that we've tried, we see more verbalizations, more trying to make sounds, and more things like that. So that's good. The one word he never lost was mama, so that's
Thank God.
That's sweet. But he said dada for the first time in over 2 years. I
mean, this one's non-stop talking.
Yes, he's crazy talking.
And how old is this one?
He just turned 2.
You got to meet Ziggy from Australia. Do you know that? But you need to chat. If you're both loud boys.
Apple.
We'll get Ziggy from Australia over in a minute.
Do your flash.
Now, but isn't that sad? So this child is completely unvaccinated. No vitamin K, or did you say vitamin K?
No.
No, nothing.
So he actually he's actually a preemie. He was born 2 months
Who's
early.
preemie?
This one. And he is far above in language and development than any of the other 2-year-olds that we know.
What's his name?
Ethan.
Ethan, meet Ziggy. Ziggy, meet Ethan. You're both of the same noise value level.
Yes.
Unvaccinated boisterousness.
Cutie.
These threats to society.
I know. So we say my
Ziggy's
high
over there for
one
those.
is this one.
There he is. Huh?
My vaccine injured child is my easygoing one. My neurotypical
I
child
know.
is my.
I know, and we mustn't get used to it. Dale told me off for that once, and he said, Polly, this is what a normal child looks like.
Yeah.
Please do not get used to the non-verbal child quietness.
And he's very easygoing. He's very sweet.
Beautiful.
He never has any behavioral issues or anything like that. He's just, he's such a joy, and he's just very sweet. One of the things our pediatrician told us, our newer pediatrician told us, which is so sweet, was that one of the best things we ever did for James was to have Ethan. She said she's, especially with special needs children and vaccine injured children, which vaccine injured children are typically special needs. It's a lot to keep up with. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to keep up with the therapies and just trying new things and seeing what works. And so it becomes, sometimes where you feel like that's enough to handle, and so they stop at the one. But having a younger sibling to push, we've even seen it with them. He's very verbal, and he watches him to see what he's doing.
Yeah.
And tries to copy sometimes.
But it's so sad.
It is. It's very.
It's tragic.
Heartbreaking. It is. I mean, when he was 4 months old and say, buh, 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 and he'd sit there and watch him and say, buh, buh, and try to repeat.
And
that.
this is the saddest thing, is that you only have given your child one needle.
Yeah.
The DTaP.
He had one shot.
One shot. People, please understand, when you talk about spacing them out and delayed stupid schedules, it's stupid. You can go down with one vaccine.
And one thing I will say about that is, I'm so thankful for.
Say cheese.
I'm so thankful for.
Say cheese.
I wish we had never. If I could go back, we wouldn't say cheese.
It's like he's from England. It's like say cheese.
He has like a little accent. I don't know where it's come from.
Sorry, you're trying to talk and we're getting completely distracted. If you want to go around with Ziggy, he can.
But it's one of the things that's so interesting to me is that, obviously if I could go back, I would have not given the vaccine at all. But we waited to give him the vaccine that's on the schedule for 2 months old. He got it 13 months old. So his is labeled a regression. But I know many other children who have a speech delay. But it's hard. How do you know that's an actual delay and not a reaction? Because at 2 months old, they don't have words, so it's hard to see if they've lost them. At 2 months old, they don't necessarily have as strong eye contact, so how do you know that they've lost it? Whereas with him, we could clearly see. With him, we could clearly see this is a reaction to this specific thing that he had. Whereas if we'd given it on the schedule at 2 months old, and it didn't show up until he wasn't talking at 1, it'd be a lot harder to point to that. Even if we knew that was the case, it'd be a lot harder medically to point to that.
It's really sad. It's just tragic beyond belief. By the way, just saying, if Billy sees that book, if Billy sees Spot the Dog, he may not have it anymore. Because do you have that? I didn't know you had Spot the Dog in America.
Yeah, and it's his favorite.
It's Billy's favourite. Say cheese. Okay, time to play with Ziggy. Ethan.
Ziggy, do you want to play?
Time to play with Ziggy.
You want to go play with little boy?
Looking at a
Yeah.
Maybe.
Look, friends. Look, check it out, Crepes. They walk straight past each
Careful,
other.
Ethan.
Yeah, do not run into the traffic. There they are. Australia meets America. Unvaccinated boys. Really cute. All right. So anyway, now what did you say this boy was called?
James.
James is beautiful. He's really stunning looking boy.
He's a little model baby.
Hello, Taylor. Hello, what's your
And
name?
Billy going to overhug people. All hell's breaking loose here, peeps. Just so you know.
Great.
How can we help? How can we help him? What does he need?
His therapies have been helping him. It has been helpful for him to do his therapies.
He's on special diet.
It's so hard to know exactly what to do because we try, all these different things, but it's not like there's a standard, oh, hey, here's a vaccine reaction. This is what we do to fix it. It's at best, you ask what the prognosis is and they kind of shake their heads and say, we can try some things and see what happens. But, it's also devastating to just, your dreams for your child change. I hope that he regains his speech and he can grow up and be independent and live on his own, but the reality is he might be with us for forever, which obviously we love him and we're happy to have him, but we would have wished for more for him.
Are you? Now can someone make sure that Ethan doesn't run out into the traffic? Like, it's all very well saying go in a play and then just runs and plays with the traffic.
He's fearless.
Okay, he's running after Billy. John, thanks, John.
Your silly brother, huh?
So questions coming in. Do you have help? Do you have support? Do you know these people in your area and all that kind of stuff? Are you okay? People asking if you're okay.
Yeah, we're okay. I'm very, we have some really sweet friends. All of our family is in another state, but not terribly far away, and they come to visit. I have some sweet friends that help. We have a wonderful church family that helps us out, and they're just good. They're good kids. It's a hard thing to deal with, but he's so lovely now,
look at him, he's
and I'm so
beautiful.
thankful. Like his eye contact is steadily improving. His comprehension is coming back so much more. This time last year, if I asked him, "Can you pick up your book?" he wouldn't have been able to hear, understand, and act on that.
Yeah.
Now, if I
He doesn't want you showing it anymore. But just from one vaccine, the danger of this DTaP,
yes,
it could potentially have ruined this boy's life forever. And he's just, look at him, peeps. It's not okay.
And he, when it culminated in his reaction, the entire month of November, he made not a single sound. Other than he would laugh if he thought something was funny, which I'm thankful for. He never lost his laugh. But other than that, he didn't make a peep. He didn't, do the normal sounds and words that you would expect from,
So this, with your unvaccinated child, are you saying that you would rather take the risk of catching the mild childhood illnesses?
Absolutely.
Because that's what they are, peeps, okay? Just in case there's any trolls out there, just in case you're confused, they are mild childhood
I
illnesses.
had whooping cough when I was a kid.
And
And I had chicken pox.
we don't throw our bedpans out the window on top of each other.
Yeah.
We have much better sanitation, and we do have clean water, kind of, fluoride. And we're digging wells, we're blowing everything up.
And we have.
Does anyone else
protocols
think I'm
for
going
it
to go to
now.
jail soon? I think I'm on my way.
And we have protocols for it. Now I know if they were to get whooping cough, to do the vaccine or to do the vitamin C protocol and things like that. There are things that you can do to help minimize those illnesses. And if I had just listened to my mom, I think it was hard for me too because it was kind of going through. Had my mom been alive, she passed away from a car accident a few years before I had him. And if she had still been alive, I think I probably would have just listened to her and not done it. But I felt like I kind of had to go out and do all the research myself, and which I still would have done, but probably come to a different conclusion, or at least waited even longer before I did anything. And
That's tragic.
yeah. So it's
You've been through a lot. All right, well, these people are here for you whenever you need. Remember, you just call on us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm so excited to get to talk to you guys. And my husband's very excited all the way from far away. When we saw the movie together, both of us were crying. It was like seeing James's story, just told you know, it was just, it's devastating to have these interviews, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to.
We can sign his book, name on the outside of the bus.
That would be great, yeah.
And Ethan's on the inside.
That would be great.
Is there anything else you want to add? Because people are sending you so much love.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And, you know, I think for one of the challenges, I will say, and I'll keep it quick, but one of the challenges for me was...
you don't have to keep it quick. You're good. It's your story, your time.
I had some of... you'll get a lot of kickback from people. It's been a struggle for me for how much to put his story even on social media, because I don't... First of all, that's not the most important thing about him. There's so many things about him that are more important than his vaccine reaction. But I also want to be able to help anybody else if they can avoid being in the situation we've been. So I've had the opportunity to be able to share my story a good bit with some people who've reached out and who've known, you know, what has happened. And but you'll get kickback because people don't want to believe that, because they feel like by you saying this happened, you're saying they're a bad parent for having done it, which is not the case. But it's also absolutely the case that most people I've talked to couldn't name 3 ingredients in a vaccine, let alone the reactions, beyond what, you know, fever, and they might have, you know, swelling at the site, what the doctor says when they give it to them, because there isn't informed consent. And when I tell them some of the ingredients, they're just shocked and horrified at best, and at worst, you know, they just take great offense at it. Even family members, that I think was a big challenge. People who wanted to tell me, oh, well, you don't understand, this isn't what actually happened to him, who weren't involved in our day-to-day life, wanted to tell me, you know, actually this is what's wrong, you're just not seeing the right people, or you don't know enough to be able to say this. And when we knew this was it, you know, there was nothing, it was very obvious and it was very clear. And even if it isn't, a parent's intuition is much more important to listen to than somebody else who wants to have an agenda, because my agenda is my child and what is the best for him. And so that's challenging, and it does take some strength to kind of stand up to that and to say, no, this is what happened, this is absolutely what he's going through and what we're going through, and you know, to be able to continue through with that. Thankfully we do have also a lot of supportive family, but it's that has been a challenge for sure. And I'm sure excuse me, Bubbles, that's fine. And I know with a lot of people who I've spoken to who've had vaccine injured children, that has been kind of a common thread to it, because some people are not, especially family members who have an emotional investment in your child, even if they don't have the you know, parent intuition. Sometimes they're being helpful, and sometimes they want to kind of push what they want to do, and they want to parent for you if they think you're not doing it right, and that's been a little bit of a challenge. But again, we have lots of families who are really supportive and really. Do you want to go see the? You can go see the bubbles. So that's been.
Oh, we want to see the bubble. Let's show the people this. Can you take that one?
He's obviously my shy one.
No, he's definitely not shy.
Ethan, can you go get the bubbles?
We're ready to go to Walmart.
Go get the bubbles.
Yes.
Billy's been waiting to go to Walmart.
You've been the best help I've ever had in my life. You are. Better than anybody else. Your number one helper.
Oh, catch it.
There we are, playing bubbles. Okay, guys, we're going to come off. We do have some more stories. I think maybe we should have our Australian team do a story. We'll see. We'll get back in a minute.
Caught me off guard there.
No, that was a bit mean. Sorry.
That's alright.
Well, let's see what.
To say.